Your bank account has exactly $724 in it. You check it twice this morning, hoping you misremembered. You stop for coffee anyway, $4.20, and glance at your banking app out of habit while you wait. Your balance reads $728.40. Not a rounding error. You're $724, minus what you spent, plus exactly double it back. For the next 24 hours, every dollar you spend comes back doubled. No limit, no catch. This is your life with $724 to your name at sunrise. And absolutely no ceiling on where the day ends. Stage 1. The first 1,000. You buy a pair of shoes you've wanted for months. The return lands before you leave the store. You've nearly doubled your entire net worth standing at a register. A new laptop paid for outright. The doubled return lands instantly. You're holding a laptop and watching your balance climb past anything you've had at once in years. A same-day flight and hotel, booked on a whim, nearly everything you have. You board with over $5,000, and you haven't landed yet. Stage 2. 5 figures. You cross 5 figures before lunch. A watch you've always admired, paid for on the spot. The return lands before the receipt finishes printing. A reliable used car, nearly your whole balance, gone in one signature. You drive off the lot with the car and double what you walked in with. You trade up for something faster. The money doubles back mid-paperwork. $38,000, and it's not even noon. A deposit on a small condo. Not the full purchase, just securing it. The return lands. $74,000. You still haven't eaten lunch. Stage 3. 6 figures. You pay off the rest of the condo in cash on the spot. The seller's hands actually shake processing it. You own a home outright with money left over. A full renovation, paid up front. The return lands before the first wall comes down. $250,000, and the place isn't even finished. A deposit on a small commercial building in a part of town, clearly about to take off. You cross $500,000 before dinner. You finish buying the building outright. The return doubles back. For the first time in your life, your balance reads in 7 figures. Stage 4. The first millions, and someone worth talking to you. Decide to actually celebrate, for once, instead of immediately reinvesting. You walk into a small, well-reviewed restaurant near your new building. The kind of place you'd have needed a reservation for last week, and the kind you can simply buy out entirely tonight if you wanted to. You don't, though. You just want a good meal and a quiet table. The woman who seats you introduces herself as Mara. She's not just hosting tonight, you learn. She co-owns the place with her sister. Started it from nothing 3 years ago. The kind of story that usually takes a decade to tell. She's sharp, funny, clearly exhausted in the specific way people are when they build something real with their own hands. She has zero idea what kind of day you're having. She just talks to you like a person, asks real questions, pushes back when you say something she thinks is wrong. You find yourself more interested in the conversation than in checking your phone, which hasn't happened in longer than you can remember. Before you leave, you quietly pay off the restaurant's outstanding equipment loan. Not as a grand gesture, not even telling her at first, just because you can and it costs you nothing tonight. The return lands. You cross $1.9 million. When she finds out from her sister and corners you outside, she's not grateful so much as suspicious. She wants to know why, what you actually want. Why a stranger would do that. You tell her the truth. You've had an unbelievable day, and her restaurant was the first thing all day that felt like it mattered for reasons that had nothing to do with money. She studies you for a long moment like she's deciding whether to believe you. She gives you her number. Not because of what you paid for, she makes that very clear. But because her words. You're the first person all week who didn't try to impress me. Stage 5. 10 million and a second conversation. You invest in a small chain of businesses you believed in for years. The kind of bet that normally takes a wealthy backer time to consider. The return lands. You cross 3.6 million. You text Mara, half expecting nothing back given how the day's gone. She responds within minutes, not impressed by anything you've done today. Since she doesn't know most of it, just genuinely curious how your evening's going. The conversation is easy in a way that surprises you. She asks about your actual plans, not your money. You realize you want to tell her about the building, the restaurant, the conversation earlier. Not to impress her, just because you want to talk to her about it. You buy your first private jet, used but excellent condition, nearly everything you have. The return lands, over $7 million, and you own a jet that, this morning, belonged to a completely different life. You charter the jet for its first flight, paying nearly everything to view a private island that's quietly been for sale for years. Mid-flight, you text Mara a photo out the window, only half believing the day is real yourself. She replies that she's never left the state she grew up in. You tell her that's about to change, if she ever wants it to. She doesn't answer right away, and you don't push. Stage 6. The first island, the deposit on the island makes the broker's hands visibly shake. The return doubles back before you've toured it in person. $26 million. You pay the rest in full, in cash, in one transaction. The island is yours outright. $51 million, on a day that started under $1,000. You spend nearly everything developing it, a home, a dock, an airstrip for the jet. The return lands, $99 million, and the foundation isn't even poured yet. You acquire a meaningful stake in a public company you've always respected, spending the overwhelming majority of your fortune in one afternoon call. The return lands, $189 million. Stage 7. The first billion. You increase your stake enough to land a board seat. The call is taken on the first ring, not because of who you are, but the number now attached to you. $362 million. You fund a clean energy project stuck looking for capital for years, committing the vast majority of your fortune in a single signature. The return lands, $706 million. Almost a billionaire, and it's not even dinner time. A full acquisition of a logistics company you believe is undervalued. Nearly everything you have. The wire clears. The return doubles back. You are now, officially, a billionaire. $1,376 million. You call Mara not to tell her the number. You still haven't told her any of the numbers. Just to ask if she's thought about that leaving the state conversation. She laughs and says she has, actually. That's the whole call. It's the best part of your day so far, and you've just become a billionaire in the same hour. Stage 8. Multiple billions. A sweeping set of acquisitions across energy and infrastructure, nearly everything you have. Deployed in a single afternoon. The return lands, $2.6 billion. You personally fund a new clean energy grid for a region that's never had reliable power, paying for the entire project up front. The return doubles back before the first turbine is ordered. $5.1 billion. Enough farmland and equipment to meaningfully change food security for an entire region, spent without hesitation. The return lands, $9.7 billion. A medical research foundation, funded in full in one transfer, an endowment larger than some national health budgets. The return doubles back, $18.7 billion. Funding research for generations after today ends. Stage 9, tens of billions. A sweeping single-day deployment of capital across technology, infrastructure, and energy that reshapes entire industries. Financial media picks up the story within the hour. $35.5 billion. You quietly buy out the debt of an entire regional hospital system. No press release, no announcement, just handled. The return lands, $69 billion. A controlling interest in a major shipping and logistics network, spanning multiple continents. The return doubles back, $131 billion. You fund the construction of affordable housing developments in a dozen cities simultaneously, committing the overwhelming majority of your fortune. The return lands $256 billion. Stage 10. The first trillion, a single, almost unthinkable transaction, committing nearly everything to a final sweeping set of investments, spanning energy, technology, agriculture, and infrastructure across multiple continents at once. World leaders' offices begin reaching out, not from suspicion, but from genuine eagerness to understand what someone with your resources might be willing to build. The return doubles back. $500 billion. You commit almost the entirety of $500 billion to a final coordinated set of acquisitions. Clean energy infrastructure spanning entire continents, agricultural capacity that could feed populations that have never had reliable food security, a controlling stake in industries that quietly run the modern world. The return doubles back. The wire clears. The return lands. The number on your screen reads $1,905 billion. You are, by the end of this single call, the first trillionaire in human history, a fortune larger than the entire economy of most countries on Earth, built in one day, traced back, dollar for dollar, to $724 this morning. Stage 11. What you actually wanted with the hours running out. You stop thinking about how big the number can get. You call Mara. Not a quick call this time, a real one. You tell her everything, finally. The $724, the coffee, the doubling, the island, the $1 trillion sitting in an account that had less than 1,000 in it this morning. You half expect her to think you're either lying or losing your mind. She's quiet for a long moment. Then she asks the only question that matters to her: whether you're still the same person who quietly paid off her equipment loan and then actually wanted to talk about her restaurant instead of his own day. You tell her yes. She believes you, not because of the $1 trillion, but because nothing about how you've talked to her all day matches someone trying to buy his way into her life. She tells you, if the offer's still open, she'd like to see what's outside the state she grew up in. You tell her the jet's available whenever she wants it. No rush, no pressure, just an open door. You spend your final hours setting up a foundation with an endowment that will outlive you by centuries, quietly transferring ownership of the hospital debt relief and the housing developments into structures that don't require your continued involvement to keep running. You call your family just to tell them you love them, from a position where nothing they'll ever need will be a question again. At midnight, the doubling stops as quietly as it arrived. Tomorrow, $1 spent will simply be $1 spent, but none of what you built today resets with it. The island is still yours. The jet is still yours. The foundation, the grid, the housing, the hospital debt that no longer exists for thousands of families. None of it disappears when the clock turns over. And neither does the phone in your pocket, with one new message from a woman who has no idea she just agreed to fly somewhere with the first trillionaire in human history. Because to her, today, you were just someone who listened. This was your life, with one day where every dollar you spent came back doubled, starting from $724. You didn't just become richer than anyone in history. You found out by the end of it that the best thing that happened today was the one thing money had nothing to do with. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Also, tell us on which topic would you like the next story, and subscribe for the next story with a different power.